Children like him don't belong at this table. The private casino went silent. Gold cards froze between fingers. Crystal glasses stopped halfway to mouths. A roulette wheel clicked softly in the center of the room, spinning beneath a chandelier bright enough to turn every diamond into fire. And in the middle of that million-dollar silence stood a 10-year-old boy in second-hand sneakers, holding a small wooden chess piece in one hand. His name was Jonah Ellis. Beside him, his mother, Mara Ellis, stood in a black nanny uniform with her hands trembling at her sides. She was not supposed to cry in front of guests. She was not supposed to answer back. She was not supposed to forget her place inside a house where even the walls seemed richer than her whole life. But when Serafina Drake, the Mafia boss's fiancée, lifted Jonah's backpack in front of everyone and shook a black casino chip onto the velvet table, Mara's face turned cold with fear. The chip landed with a heavy sound. Serafina smiled. "See," she said, "a thief learns early." Jonah shook his head fast. "I didn't take that." Serafina tilted her head, her blonde hair falling perfectly over one shoulder. "Of course you didn't. Poor children never take anything. Things just magically fall into their bags." A few guests looked away. Others watched because cruelty is easier to enjoy when it is dressed in silk. Mara stepped forward. "Please, Miss Drake. He's a child. He was only waiting for me in the staff lounge." Serafina's eyes narrowed. "Then maybe you should have kept him there." Jonah looked past Serafina, past the roulette table, past the frozen guests, toward the far end of the casino room. There, in the shadow of a black marble archway, Raphael Vescari had stopped walking. The Mafia boss was tall, broad-shouldered, with slicked-back black hair, a trimmed beard, a sharp jawline, and dark tattoos rising from the collar of his black suit to the side of his neck. His eyes were calm. Too calm. Jonah swallowed and looked up at the mirrored ceiling above the roulette table. Then he whispered. The little red light saw. Serafina's smile disappeared for half a second. Raphael heard it. And nobody in that private casino knew that before the night ended, a hidden camera above that table would expose the one person everyone thought was untouchable. Welcome back to Shadowed Heart. Tonight's story begins inside a private casino, behind locked doors, where powerful men came to gamble, a rich fiancé came to lie, and one nanny's son noticed the truth before anyone else did. Stay close, because the first insult is only the beginning. The Vescari estate did not have a casino for fun. It had one for power. The room sat beneath the east wing of the mansion, behind a carved black door that opened only with Raphael Vescari's approval. No public gamblers. No tourists. No cameras from the outside world. Only invited guests. Family allies. Old enemies pretending to be friends. Men who smiled while counting favors. Women in diamonds who understood silence better than most lawyers. The casino was beautiful in a dangerous way. Red velvet walls. Black marble floors. Gold lamps shaped like old Italian lions. A private bar glowing with amber bottles. Poker tables arranged in a perfect half-circle. A roulette table beneath a mirrored ceiling. And at the back, behind two guards, a steel door leading to Raphael's private counting room. People said the real money was not on the tables. The real money was in the promises made beside them. That night was supposed to be Serafina Drake's first official appearance as future wife of Raphael Vescari. Not at a wedding. Not at an engagement dinner. At the casino. Because in Raphael's world, romance was private. Power was introduced publicly. Serafina knew that. She had spent months preparing for this night. Her white silk dress had been chosen to look pure under red casino lights. Her diamonds were borrowed from the Vescari vault. Her smile had been practiced in every mirror. She wanted every guest to see her and think one thing. She belongs beside him. But Serafina had one problem. She did not belong. Not truly. Raphael Vescari was feared across the city, but he was not foolish. He did not love loudly. He did not trust quickly. And lately, he had begun asking questions Serafina did not like. Why had she been near the counting room after midnight? Why had she dismissed two guards without telling him? Why did one of his casino ledgers disappear for 6 minutes before returning to the same drawer? Serafina had laughed every time. "Darling," she would say, touching his arm, "you see plots even in shadows." Raphael never answered. That was what frightened her. A man who shouts tells you where his anger is. A man who stays silent makes you wonder where it is going. Mara Ellis had no idea any of this was happening. She was 31, deep brown skin, tired eyes, and the kind of quiet strength that came from surviving without applause. She had been hired 6 months earlier as a nanny for Raphael's young nephew, who visited the estate twice a week. Her job was simple: keep the child safe, fed, clean, and out of family business. Mara was good at staying out of family business. She had learned early that poor women survived rich houses by becoming invisible. But invisibility was harder with a son like Jonah. Jonah was 10, warm brown skin, curly black hair, thin shoulders, sharp eyes, and a mind that never stopped moving. He liked puzzles, chess, broken watches, card tricks, and asking questions that made adults pause. He was not loud. That was what made him dangerous. Loud children are easy to correct. Quiet children are easy to underestimate. Jonah's school had closed that week because of a heating problem. Mara had no one to watch him. Her neighbor was sick. Her sister lived 2 buses away and worked nights. So Mara did what working mothers do when life gives them no good options. She brought him with her. "Stay in the staff lounge," she told him that evening, kneeling to fix the collar of his blue shirt. "Read your book. Don't wander. Don't touch anything. Don't speak unless someone speaks to you first." Jonah nodded. "I know, Mama." "And if Miss Drake comes near you?" His eyes dropped. "I stay quiet." Mara hated that answer, but she kissed his forehead anyway. Sometimes survival sounds like teaching your child silence. Serafina noticed Jonah before the first guest arrived. He was sitting on a chair near the service hallway, turning a wooden chess knight between his fingers. He had found it in Raphael's nephew's playroom, and because it was the only thing that helped him stay calm, Mara had allowed him to keep it for the evening. Serafina stopped in front of him. Jonah stood quickly. "Good evening," he said. She looked him up and down. "Whose child are you?" "My mother works here." That was obvious. Jonah did not answer. Serafina smiled, but not with kindness. "Do you know what kind of people are coming tonight?" Jonah shook his head. "Important people," she said. "People who do not come to private casinos to see staff children sitting around like decorations." Mara appeared from a hallway, carrying folded linen. "Miss Drake, I'm sorry. He'll stay out of sight." Serafina turned to her. "I was just explaining boundaries." Mara lowered her eyes. "Yes, ma'am." Serafina leaned closer and spoke softly enough that only Mara could hear. "If your son embarrasses me tonight, you will not work here tomorrow." Mara's fingers tightened around the linen. Jonah heard. He pretended he did not. That was the first cut of the night. Small, quiet, the kind no one records. Except sometimes houses built on secrets have eyes in places even powerful people forget. The second cut came 20 minutes later. Raphael entered the casino before the guests, inspecting the room with his head guard, Elias. He wore a fitted black suit, open collar black shirt, silver watch, and no smile. The tattoo on his neck showed just above the collar, a dark mark against tanned skin. He noticed everything: the dealer positions, the guard placement, the closed counting room door. The roulette mirror angled 2 inches lower than usual. Then his eyes found Jonah. The boy was standing near the staff arch, holding the chess knight, and watching a dealer shuffle cards. Raphael stopped. "What are you looking at?" Mara's heart nearly stopped. "Sir, I'm sorry. My son." Raphael lifted one hand, and Mara went silent. Jonah looked nervous, but answered, "He's not shuffling right." The dealer frowned. Raphael turned his head slightly. "Explain." Jonah pointed at the cards. "He keeps bending the left corner. Not a lot. Just enough to know which one is high." The room went still. The dealer's face changed. Elias stepped forward, took the deck, and examined it. One corner was marked. Raphael looked at the dealer. "You are dismissed." The dealer began stammering. Raphael did not listen. 2 guards escorted him out quietly. Then Raphael looked back at Jonah. "What is your name?" "Jonah, sir." Raphael's eyes moved to the chess piece. "Do you play?" "A little." "Then remember this, Jonah. A bad player watches the king. A good player watches the hands moving around him." Jonah nodded like he understood more than a child should. Serafina saw the exchange from across the room, and something ugly moved behind her eyes. Because Raphael had noticed the nanny's son. Not with pity, with interest. Serafina could tolerate servants. She could not tolerate servants becoming memorable. The guests began arriving at 8. First came men in black suits with rings on their fingers and secrets in their pockets. Then women in silk gowns, perfume, diamonds, and eyes that measured every weakness. The casino filled with laughter that never reached the walls. Serafina moved through the room like she already owned it. She touched shoulders. She accepted compliments. She stood close to Raphael whenever someone important approached, but every few minutes, her eyes went to the counting room door. And every few minutes Jonah noticed. Not because he understood what was behind it, because children notice patterns before they understand motives. At 9:15, Mara was sent to the private bar to collect a tray of lemon water. Jonah was supposed to stay in the staff lounge. But when one of the cooks spilled sauce on the floor and everyone rushed to clean it, Jonah stepped into the service corridor to find his mother. That was when he heard voices behind the red curtain near the old slot machines. Serafina's voice, and a man's voice he did not know. "I need 3 minutes," the man whispered. "You'll have 2, Serafina said. "Raphael will be watching the boy." "The boy?" Serafina's voice turned cold. "The nanny's son. I'll make a scene. Everyone will look at him. You go through the west service door and take the ledger chip from the counting room." Jonah stopped breathing. He did not know what a ledger chip was. He did not know why someone needed 2 minutes. But he knew his name was inside something bad. The curtain moved. Jonah ducked behind a gold lion lamp. Serafina stepped out first. The man followed. He was tall, thin, with silver hair and a red pocket square. He moved like a guest, but his eyes moved like a thief. Jonah held the chess knight so tightly it hurt his palm. Then he saw Serafina open a small black velvet pouch. Inside was a casino chip unlike the others. Black, heavy, stamped with the Vescary crest. She slipped it into her hand and walked toward the staff lounge. Jonah ran. Not far. Just enough to reach the hallway where Mara was coming with a tray. "Mama," he whispered. "Miss Drake said my name." Mara almost dropped the glasses. "What?" "She said she'll make everyone look at me." Mara crouched. "Jonah, listen to me. Did you leave the staff lounge?" "I heard her talking to a man." Mara's face tightened with fear. In a normal house, a child hearing something strange might be useful. In a Mafia house, it could be deadly. "Don't say anything," she whispered. "Stay beside me. Eyes down." "But Mama." "Please." That word stopped him, because Jonah knew his mother only said please when she was scared. At 9:30, Raphael began the first private game of the night. It was not about money. Not really. It was about loyalty. 8 guests sat around the black poker table, while others watched from the bar and roulette area. Serafina stood behind Raphael's chair, one hand resting on his shoulder, smiling like a queen. Mara moved quietly through the room with water. Jonah stood near the service arch, half hidden. Then Serafina began. She turned suddenly, her eyes sharp. "Mara." The room quieted. Mara stopped. "Yes, ma'am." "Where is your son?" Mara's stomach dropped. Jonah stepped closer to her. Serafina smiled. "How convenient." Raphael looked up. "What is this?" Serafina walked toward Jonah slowly, every step designed to be seen. "I did not want to embarrass anyone tonight," she said, loud enough for the room. "But something is missing from the casino table." Elias frowned. Serafina lifted Jonah's backpack from a chair near the staff arch. Mara went pale. "That's his school bag." "Yes," Serafina said. "I know." She opened it. Jonah shook his head. "I didn't put anything in there." Serafina reached inside and removed the black Vescary casino chip. A murmur moved through the room. Mara's lips parted. "No." Serafina held it up like proof from heaven. "This chip is not decorative. It marks access to the counting room. It belongs nowhere near a staff child." Jonah's eyes filled, but he did not cry. "I didn't take it." Serafina's face hardened. "Children like him don't belong at this table." And now the casino was silent. This was the moment she wanted. Every face turned toward the boy. Every guard looked at the chip. Every guest forgot the counting room door. And at the west service entrance, the silver-haired man began moving. But Raphael Vescary did not look away from Serafina. That was her mistake. Raphael had spent his life watching liars. The careless ones talked too much. The skilled ones knew exactly when to pause. Serafina paused perfectly. Too perfectly. Mara stepped in front of Jonah. "Sir, please. My son would never steal." Serafina laughed softly. "Every mother says that." Jonah's fingers tightened around the wooden knight. Then he looked up at the mirrored ceiling above the roulette table. A tiny red light blinked once behind the gold trim. He had noticed it earlier because children notice lights adults ignore. "The little red light saw," he whispered. Serafina's face changed. Raphael's eyes lifted to the mirror, then lowered slowly back to her. "What red light?" Serafina recovered quickly. He's inventing things. He's frightened. Raphael stood. The room seemed smaller when he stood. Elias. His head guard stepped forward. Lock the room. The casino doors closed. The silver-haired man stopped 3 steps from the west service door. Raphael pointed without looking at him. Bring him here. 2 guards moved at once. The man smiled weakly. There must be some confusion. Raphael said nothing. That was worse. He turned to Jonah. Show me the red light. Jonah pointed to the mirrored ceiling over the roulette table. It blinked when she took my bag. A few guests looked up. Serafina's laugh sounded thinner now. That is absurd. There are no cameras in this room except the visible security system. Raphael finally looked at her. You know that for certain. She froze. Only for a second. But in a room full of gamblers, a second is enough to lose everything. Raphael turned to Elias. Check the old mirror feed. Elias hesitated. The old mirror feed was decommissioned years ago. Raphael's eyes stayed cold. My father never decommissioned anything he thought might catch betrayal. That line changed the air. The old casino had belonged to Raphael's father before him, a man so paranoid he had once hidden microphones inside flower vases and cameras behind religious paintings. Most of the systems had been removed. Most. Elias moved to a control panel behind the bar. Serafina stepped toward Raphael. Darling, this is humiliating. You're letting a nanny's child turn your casino into a circus. Raphael did not look at her. No, he said. You did that. Mara held Jonah close, her body shaking. She wanted to disappear. She wanted to run. She wanted to beg Raphael not to make this worse. But Jonah was looking at the mirror. His face was pale. Sir, he said quietly. Raphael turned. What else did you see? Jonah looked at his mother, then at the silver-haired man. He talked to her behind the curtain. He said he needed 3 minutes. The man's face changed. Serafina snapped. That is enough from him. Raphael's voice dropped. Careful. 1 word. That was all. And Serafina went silent. Elias called from the bar. Boss. The old feed had opened. The screen flickered. Static. Black lines. Then a grainy overhead view of the roulette table appeared. The angle was strange, half hidden behind the mirror trim, but clear enough. Raphael walked to the screen. Everyone watched. The footage showed the casino 20 minutes earlier. The staff arched Jonah's backpack on a chair. Serafina moving toward it while the room was distracted by the first champagne toast. She looked left, looked right, then slipped the black Vescary chip into the front pocket of the boy's backpack. Mara made a small sound, like grief leaving her body. Jonah whispered, I told you. The room turned toward Serafina, but Raphael lifted one hand. No one speaks yet. Because he knew something. A planted chip was not the whole crime. It was only the curtain. Rewind, he said. Elias went back further. The screen showed Jonah near the red curtain earlier, then ducking behind the gold lion lamp as Serafina and the silver-haired man stepped out. The camera had no perfect audio, but it had enough. Serafina's voice came through faint and sharp. I'll make a scene. Everyone will look at him. The silver-haired man and the ledger chip? Serafina, you take it while Raphael watches the boy. The casino room went completely still. Not shocked. Frozen. There is a difference. Shock is loud. Fear is quiet. Raphael turned slowly to the silver-haired man. Name. The man swallowed. Orson Vale. One of the older guests cursed under his breath. Vale was not a small name. It belonged to a rival circle that had been pretending peace with the Vescary family for 6 months. Serafina reached for Raphael's arm. Raphael, I can explain. He stepped back before she touched him. That small movement ended half her future. But the hidden camera was not finished. Elias scrubbed forward again. The footage showed Orson standing near the west service door while the casino watched Serafina mock Jonah. His hand went inside his jacket. He removed a slim gold access card. Raphael's jaw tightened. That card should not exist. Only 3 people had access to the counting room. Raphael, Elias, and Serafina, temporarily because she had begged to help prepare the evening's ceremonial chip display. The camera showed Orson swipe the card. The lock flashed green. The door opened. Serafina closed her eyes. That was confession enough. But Raphael still did not shout. He walked to the poker table and picked up the black chip that had been planted in Jonah's bag. He held it between 2 fingers. You used a child as a distraction. Serafina's voice cracked. I panicked. No, Raphael said. You planned. Her eyes filled with tears, but Raphael had seen beautiful tears used as weapons before. You don't understand, she whispered. Orson threatened my family. He said if I didn't help. Raphael looked at Elias. Search her clutch. Serafina stiffened. Elias took her silver clutch from the table and opened it. Inside was a folded paper, lipstick, a tiny perfume bottle, and a second gold access card. But beneath the lining, hidden flat against the bottom, was a small memory chip. Elias placed it on the table. Raphael looked at it, then at Serafina. What is that? She said nothing. Orson closed his eyes. Now the guests understood. The first chip opened the door. The second carried whatever was stolen. Elias inserted the memory chip into the secure reader behind the bar. A file list appeared. Photographs, ledger copies, names, payment routes, private agreements. Every dangerous, secret, powerful man had whispered inside Raphael Vescari's casino. This was not theft. This was war. A guest whispered, My God. Raphael's eyes remained on Serafina. You were going to sell my house from inside my house. Serafina finally broke. You never trusted me, she cried. You kept me outside every real decision. Do you know what it feels like to stand beside a man everyone fears and still be treated like decoration? Raphael's face did not move. So you framed a nanny's son. Her mouth opened. No answer came. Because rage can justify many things in a liar's mind. But not that. Mara stepped forward, voice shaking. You called my child a thief. Serafina looked at her with hatred now, the mask gone. If you had kept him where staff belong, none of this would have happened. That line killed the last trace of pity in the room. Raphael's eyes went dark. Say that again. Serafina realized too late. The casino became so quiet that the roulette wheel's final click sounded like a gun being loaded. Raphael turned to the room. You all heard her. No one denied it. He looked at Jonah. The boy was still holding the wooden knight, still trying not to cry. Raphael walked toward him slowly and lowered himself to one knee, ignoring the expensive suit, the guests, the power, the shame of the moment. Jonah, he said, voice low, did anyone ask you to touch that chip? Jonah shook his head. No, sir. Did you steal from my casino? No. Did you tell the truth? Jonah swallowed. Yes. Raphael nodded. Then listen carefully. A liar put something heavy in your bag and tried to make you carry her crime. That does not make you guilty. Jonah's eyes filled. Mara covered her mouth. Raphael stood again. Then he turned to Serafina. Remove the engagement ring. Serafina stared at him. Raphael. Now. Her hands trembled as she pulled the diamond ring from her finger. He did not take it. He nodded toward the table. She placed it beside the planted black chip. The two objects sat there together. One symbol of a future. One symbol of a lie. Both dead. Raphael spoke to Elias without looking away from her. Miss Drake leaves this estate tonight. Not through the front gates. Through the service exit she thought was good enough for my staff. Serafina flinched. Everything she brought stays sealed until council reviews it. Orson Vale goes to the lower office. His people will receive the message with evidence attached. Orson began to protest. Two guards stepped closer. He stopped. Raphael turned to the guests. This game is over. Nobody moved. Go home, he said, and remember what you saw. In my house, we do not punish the powerless to protect the guilty. One by one, the guests left. No music. No laughter. No one asking for their coats too loudly. The casino emptied like a church after a funeral. When only staff remained, Mara finally broke. Not dramatically. Not loudly. She sank into a chair near the roulette table and held Jonah to her chest. I'm sorry, she whispered into his hair. I'm so sorry. Jonah hugged her back. I didn't touch it, Mama. I know, baby. I know. Raphael stood a few feet away, watching them with an expression nobody in that casino had seen on him before. Regret. Because the worst betrayals are not only committed by the liar. Sometimes they are made possible by the powerful person who let the liar stand too close. He removed the wooden chess knight from the table where Jonah had dropped it during the commotion. Then he walked over and held out. Jonah took it carefully. Thank you. Raphael nodded. You saw the hands moving around the king. Jonah looked confused for a moment. Then he remembered. A good player watches the hands. Yes. Raphael looked at Mara. You and your son will not return to the staff lounge tonight. Mara stiffened, fear flashing across her face. He saw it immediately. I mean, you will be given a guest suite upstairs, with a lock only you control. Mara stared at him. And my job? Your job is safe, Raphael said. But that is a small answer to a large wrong. He turned to Elias. Tomorrow morning, every staff child policy in this estate changes. If a worker's child has to be here, the child has a proper room, food, supervision, and respect. Not a hallway chair. Not a warning. Not shame. Elias nodded. Mara's eyes filled. Sir, I don't know what to say. Raphael looked back at the empty casino. Say nothing tonight. Rest. Jonah looked at him. What will happen to the hidden camera? For the first time, Raphael almost smiled. It will stay. Jonah nodded seriously. Good. It's better than people. That made Mara laugh through her tears. A small broken laugh, but real. Later that night, after the red lights were shut off and the casino tables covered, Raphael stood alone beneath the mirrored ceiling. The old hidden camera was barely visible behind gold trim. His father had installed it out of paranoia. Tonight, it had protected a child. Funny how old fears sometimes become new justice. Elias entered quietly. Orson is talking, he said. Serafina's been passing small pieces for weeks. Tonight was supposed to be the full transfer. Raphael nodded. And the boy? In the East guest suite with his mother. He asked if the room had cameras. Raphael's face tightened. What did you say? I told him no. Good. Elias hesitated. The kid saved us. Raphael looked at the covered roulette table. No, he said. He told the truth. We were lucky enough to finally listen. The next morning, Jonah woke in a bed bigger than the living room of their apartment. For a long time, he did not move. Sunlight came through tall curtains. His backpack sat on a chair near the window. His wooden knight rested beside a breakfast tray with pancakes, orange juice, and a small bowl of strawberries. Mara was asleep in the chair nearby, still holding his jacket in her lap, like she had been afraid someone might take him if she let go. There was a soft knock. Mara woke instantly. Raphael stood in the doorway, wearing a dark shirt, tattoos visible at his neck and wrist, expression serious, but not cold. I will not come in unless invited, he said. Mara blinked, surprised by the courtesy. You can come in. Raphael stepped inside and placed a small box on the table. Jonah looked at it. What is that? A chess set, Raphael said. Not a gift for silence. A gift for seeing clearly. Jonah opened the box. Inside were carved wooden pieces, dark and light, smooth and heavy. His fingers touched the knight first. Mara whispered, Mr. Vescary, this is too much. No, Raphael said. Too much was what happened downstairs. He looked at Jonah. One more thing. Jonah sat straighter. If anyone in this house ever makes you feel like you do not belong because of your mother's work, you tell Elias. Or you tell me. Jonah looked at his mother. Mara nodded slowly. Then Jonah asked, Is Miss Drake gone? Yes. Because of the camera. Raphael paused. Because of what she chose to do when she thought no one important was watching. Jonah frowned. But I'm not important. Mara's face broke. Raphael's eyes sharpened. That is where she made her first mistake. The room went quiet. Jonah looked down at the chess set. Then he moved the knight forward. Knights move funny, he said. Raphael looked at the board. Yes. They don't go straight. No, Raphael said. They surprise people. Jonah nodded. I like them. Raphael's mouth almost softened. So do I. Sometimes the smallest person in a room full of powerful men sees the most. Sometimes cruelty chooses a child because it thinks no one will believe him. Sometimes a rich woman in diamonds plants a lie in a poor boy's backpack and calls it proof. But truth has a way of waiting. In a mirror. In a blinking red light. In the memory of a child who was told to stay quiet. That night, Serafina Drake walked into Raphael Vescary's private casino believing she would leave as his future wife. Instead, she left through the same service hallway where she had tried to shame a nanny and her son. And Jonah Alice, the boy she called a thief, became the reason the entire Vescary house remembered one rule stronger than any casino law. Never mistake silence for weakness. And never assume the hidden camera is the only thing watching. If this story stayed with you, tell me in the comments, what was the first clue you noticed? The black chip? The red light? or the way Serafina kept watching the counting room door. Subscribe to Shadowed Heart for more emotional Mafia mystery stories. Because in this world, the truth does not always shout. Sometimes it sits quietly beside its mother, holding a wooden knight, waiting for the right moment to move.